Well, hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Wild Your Garden. And in this video we're going to be looking at a particular question that I get asked all the time on social media, and that is, when is the best time to prune my herbaceous perennials? Now, a lot of people often say, oh, the best time is late autumn or into, kind of September, October. And for those of you that don't know, herbaceous perennials are plants that come back year after year after year. So they're not shrubs, they don't particularly have a woody form or structure to them. So they are just fresh vegetation that grows back from the original rootstock year after year. Some of them are short-lived and some of them are longer-lived, maybe 5 to 7 years. But in general, they will come up in the spring, flower in the summer months, and then die back down in the autumn. So it looks like they've died, but of course they will, as I say, put fresh growth on in the new year. Now, these include plants such as Fabina Bonariensis, echinaceas, nepetas, salvias, and they all have just slight variations on when you should perhaps prune them. But in general, as gardeners, we want to make things as easy as possible and as maintenance free as possible. So most of the time I cut back all my herbaceous perennials at the end of March and into April. Now, the reason that I do this is because, mind the running dog. The reason I do this is because it allows all the seeds in some of the flower heads, things like particularly verbenas, teasels as well, to actually provide seed and food for birds through the winter months. And I've certainly had goldfinches in the garden here on a lot of the seed heads through the winter months. Things like valerian as well, red valerian, they're all full of seed through the winter months, so it's great as a food source for birds. Plus as well, you get often caterpillars of particular moth species and butterfly species sometimes overwintering in the kind of the vegetation at the base of these plants. And obviously if you cut that right back down to the ground, you're completely removing any cover for those insects and things. So of course it makes it a very kind of open, barren wasteland for them. So by having that cover, that vegetation, you're providing cover through the winter months until the spring, when things start warming up, we get a bit of sun and they start moving about again. So that said, that's the best time to prune them back. How to prune them back is quite often to take them down to the nearest shooting bud. Now, this might not look like much at the moment. This is one of my favourite herbaceous perennials. This is a Fabina Bonariensis, and as you can see, it is just putting out some fresh purplish spikes of leaves at the bottom, which are going to make some really nice tall stems. This plant is a plant that will get up to 5 or 6 foot tall, no problem at all. And I just want to remove these dead woody stems to encourage some more fresh growth. I'm just using a pair of scissors at the moment, but you can of course use secateurs. Just be careful obviously if you're doing this. And the best way to do it is to prune back to the nearest node, what's known as a node. And that is, so try and do this so you can actually see. See, I've just kind of clipped above that fresh vegetation, snip it off, and there we have those fresh leaves ready to grow again. This stem's actually been bent back a little bit, so I'm going to cut this stem back down to the fresh growth near the base. Not the sharpest scissors in the world, and the same with this side, just above the node, like that. Pull any weeds out. Of course, this is just a 9 centimetre potted plant that I sell on the website wildyourgarden.com. So if you're looking for any wildflowers, then that's the place to go, or herbaceous perennials. So as you can see now, you can see all these fresh little red bits of growth just waiting to go. So that's going to be really great, and in a couple of weeks time, it's the beginning of April now, those will be rocketing away. So here's another one slightly further on. Again, they have slightly varying sort of growth spurts, if you like, but again you can see this long stem, which at the very end you can just see the seed heads, which were, believe it or not, providing seed up until only a few weeks ago. But you can see this plant on the ground now. I'm knelt down, but that is a good 4.5 foot tall. So these really provide a fantastic plant for the front, the middle, or the back of a herbaceous border. Now what you want to do is feel for the node. If you can't see any visible leaves, feel for the node, which is a little kind of lump on the side of the stem there, and you can often see a bit of a line, and just cut just above that. So there's the node. We're going to cut just above it, like so, and there you go. that will then sprout back. You want to cut back to no more than about 3 inches above where the base of the plant is at ground level, shall we say, because if above that, if it's then shooting from say 2 foot above ground level, things can get quite a bit sort of leggy and wave around in the wind a lot. So the plant is stronger down at the base, particularly with something like this where you can get 5 or 6 feet of growth. Now the stem in the middle looks to be fairly hollow and dead, so we can probably take that one out completely. Although if you're not sure, cut it back a bit first. If you can still see that the stem is brown, then obviously that part of the plant is dead. However, you can see on the one I've cut back that the edges are actually green, so that's when you know something is living. And generally speaking, quick tip for you, if you actually use your thumb, if you want to see if something is living or not, and scrape back just a bit of the main stem, you can see that there is brown, whereas with this bit you can see it's actually green. So generally speaking, it works better on trees and shrubs. Of course, it's very difficult in the middle of winter to tell if something is alive or not, but trees and shrubs, generally speaking, if you just scratch back the bark a little tiny bit, you can usually tell for sure. If it's green, it's alive; if it's brown, it's dead. So bit of a tip for you there. So that pot is ready to go in the ground now. I'm going to be planting that shortly. But just another little example for you. As I say, those are the Fabina Bonariensis. Here's one I planted, or bought last year actually. Now this scruffy looking thing is a Nepeta 6 Hills Giant, which, as the name suggests, is a brilliant plant for bees and butterflies during the summer months. Gets to 2 or 3 foot across as a clump. Really good flower on this one, a bit like a salvia in many respects. Worm coming out the bottom, put him in the border. But as you can see, these dead stems from last year, they're just a little bit unsightly, so you want to encourage lots of fresh new growth, which this obviously isn't having a problem doing. So I'm going to try and do this the other way around now. I'm left-handed, but normally I will do this right-handed. Take that snail off. And so you can see we're just trimming those stems back. Yeah, that ear isn't mine in the foreground, that's Siri's ear, by the way. He's obviously come to have a nose as to what I'm doing, but you can see I'm just snipping out. Oops, I accidentally caught a live one there, but it's no problem, this plant will grow back fine, no worries at all. Generally this is a bit more into sort of pot care if you've got plants in pots as well. And as you can see, I've got a bit of things like herb robert in there, a little geranium. It's a good nectar source. I've seen orange tips using this as nectar source and a lot of the white butterflies, but generally speaking it's going to compete with this plant in this pot, so it's best to take ones like that out. Another one here, look, you can see this big green leaf. No doubt not a lot of you will know this plant, so just kind of feel down to the base, just tease the roots out. Yeah, so just a bit of general maintenance on these, and you can see I'm just going to carry on going around snipping this pot. Another herb robert. I've just been weeding these out like nothing else today, out of all the other pots that are full of some of my bird's foot trefoil and other things. So we're going to keep going around snipping those out. A little bit more herb robert, and a bit this side. You can see how well this stuff does at growing where you don't want it to grow. But as I say, it's a good plant, does provide nectar, just wrong plant for this situation. So a few more stems to take out now. I hope you can see this is alright. I'm trying to, and again with the dead stuff, just cut it down as low as you want to the base of the plant. Another bit of herb robert. The scissors stuck to my fingers. Right, I think that's the last one of the herb roberts. If you're looking to buy any of these plants, like I say, the new website wildyourgarden.com is now open, so do have a look on there. There's tons and tons of plants you can buy, ranging from the Herbaceous Perennials, which will be available soon. So everything from these Nepetas through to your echinaceas, verbenas, salvias, everything that's good for bees and butterflies. And incidentally, if you are watching this abroad, then we're not actually shipping abroad at the moment, just due to Brexit, and current legislation just means the shipping kind of almost kills the industry at the moment. So we are looking at options for that, but if you are abroad, I've got a lot of followers in France and the Netherlands, then do stay in touch, because we are exploring other options as to how we can get these plants to you guys. Obviously, if you're in the Netherlands, you've got a wonderful source of most of this stuff anyway. Very good growers you guys are indeed. So it's looking a little bit bedraggled. Clear some of this off me, and a lot of the stuff you can just sort of almost pull out, you know. But that is in fact now pruned. Now, if you're not sure on the actual you know, if you don't quite like how that looks, you can then cut this back, and for argument's sake I will show you how to do that now, just to let it come back as a nice bushy specimen without all those other bits of herb robber inside the pot. So again, just cut back to fairly low down. You might think this is drastic, but I promise you these plants will have no problem going back at all. Nepeta, it's actually good to cut these back after they've flowered in the summer months, and I will be doing more videos on that to come, because they do provide a fantastic source of nectar. As I say, so many bees. I mean, these things just get absolutely smothered in bees. So generally speaking, it might look a bit drastic, but I promise you 15 years has told me this is the best way to do things. So there you go. 1 times Nepeta, ready to bush back and grow nicely into a really, really good specimen. So Fabina, Nepeta, wish it didn't all sound the same or similar. And then some of you may have seen the how to plant a pot for pollinating insects or wildlife containers on the previous in some previous videos, and I'll put a link to that video at the end of this one. But in this one we are doing pretty much the same again. So as you can see, I've got some really old, I say really old, last year's growth Fabina stems. So I'm going back to, this is just some bird's foot trefoil that I planted at the base that you'll probably remember, and I'm almost just pulling that off, but cutting a bit off as well. Bird's foot trefoil, for those of you that know me, know that it's my favourite native British wildflower. Just pulling some of that dead stuff off, and as you can see, look at that lovely bushy stem in the middle, just waiting to go on this Fabina. So the previous year's stem, I'm just feeling for a node on the back. Bring this a bit closer for you guys. Feeling for a node on the back there, and cutting just above it. If you cut below it, it'll leave a dead stump, a dead stub down to the node below it, but if you cut above it, then that'll sprout back from there, no problem at all, just like this one, and provide really nice stem. So again, you can see here, if you can just see down there, that's just waiting to go, that little bit of growth there. So I'm just going to cut back just above it at a slight angle, and there we go. The top of this has come off, which is fine. Another bit of dead there, and stick that bit of bird's foot trefoil back in there. Take a bit of dead out, and it might not look much now, but I promise you within a few weeks this will be bursting with colour. This will be alive with yellow flowers of the bird's foot trefoil, and the Fabina will be flowering later in June. Fabina, incredible plant by the way, it grows very well up to, like I say, 4 or 5 feet, and flowers from June through to November, so absolutely second to none in terms of a flowering period for butterflies and bees and moths. So Fabina Bonariensis, strongly recommend it. So bit of a recap then for you. Herbaceous perennials, things like your verbenas, echinaceas, all that sort of stuff, cut it down to the fresh growth. And that's the other thing I forgot to say, when you're cutting them back, I always find it's a lot easier to cut back down to fresh growth so that you can see where you're cutting to, rather than try and do it in the depths of winter where it's harder to see which stems are dead and harder to see what might come back in the spring. So another bonus to waiting until spring, apart from the fact that it provides lots of seed for the birds through the winter months, as I say. So everything now cut back, these are ready to go in the borders. They've had their winter spring haircut, and all should be well, they should be flowering very soon. So hope that answers the question, guys. Thank you so much for the support on the channel. As I say, wildyourgarden.com, if you're looking to buy any of these perennial plants, they will be available at the end of the month into early May. can't wait to start shipping some out to you guys to make some more habitats for wildlife. So thanks for watching. Please feel free to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Give the video a like, and I'll be bringing you many more videos yet to come on all the ways in which you can help wildlife in your own garden. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.